Hey, so I'm Lauren, I'm from Positively Parenting, and I'm hoping that we're going live. Not done this on Restream before, so hoping it works. Anyway, what I want to talk to you about today is how to manage in those moments when there are big storms going on in your family. So I'm just flipping slides, or I'm just trying to figure out how to make all this work. So before we get stuck in, I just want to take a moment to outline the problem that we face as neurodiverse families. And I want to back it up with some evidence. So there was a study done at New Curtin University, and it found that caregivers of neurodivergent children are more likely to experience clinically significant levels of stress, poor mental health, financial hardship, and negative relationships. So it's not all in your head. It is more difficult. On top of that, neurodiverse parents will also have their own challenges. So they will have their own issues from childhood, which also our executive function is not optimized to make regulating ourselves straightforward. And as a result, home can feel like a war zone with no time to recover between crises. I've been there. However, if we have sufficient tools in place, and if we're sufficiently practiced so that we're able to reach for those tools when our thinking brain is offline. So if you can remember from last week's training, if you caught it on aggression, this is when we're likely to have bottom-up behaviours. If we're able to use these tools, we should be able to shift ourselves from a state of stress, which will be like fuel to the fire, and slow ourselves down so that we're actually able to access our thinking brain and have the ability to respond to the situation consciously. So if we have a structure that allows us to return to an emotional baseline regularly, and to connect with our kids regularly, which will return them to their emotional baselines, then we will be able to maintain a more stable baseline for the entire family. And the storms, when they arise, will become much quicker, we'll resolve them quicker, and they'll be less frequent. And we'll find that our children start noticing and copying our strategies, and everyone will become calmer. So I want to talk you through 5 key strategies today for surviving these stormy waters. So the first strategy is roots, nurture, space, which will be familiar to those of you who worked with me before, but to those of you who are new to my work, I'll briefly describe it to you. This is my go-to phrase in the moment. So in the moment of stress, of storm, roots, nurture, space. So let's start with roots. If you're able to do this now while I'm talking, and the idea is that you do this in the moment. Sometimes you're going to have to make it really short and sharp, but if you can make it a bit longer, do so, because the longer you're able to do it, the more effective it's going to be. But of course, if you've got 2 young children fighting, for example, you're not going to be able to take as long as we're going to take right now. But the more you practice out of those stressful moments, the quicker you'll be able to do this. So feel your feet on the ground, slow your breathing right down, focusing on a long, slow exhale, which is going to stimulate the vagus nerve, which runs down our spines, and bring us into a sort of parasympathetic nervous system, which is where we want to be when we want to be calm. If visualization works for you, it doesn't work for everybody who's neurodiverse, but it can be very powerful, then you can imagine roots growing down from your feet deep into the earth. I like to imagine them going right down to the core of the earth and wrapping round the earth's core, tethering me to the earth. If you have time, close your eyes and really visualize the earth holding you. Notice the physical sensations that are going on in your body. Is your jaw clenched? Are any muscles tensed? How does your stomach feel? How does your chest feel? How does your throat feel? How do your shoulders feel? You may start to notice the physical sensations start to shift as you bring attention to them. The next thing we do is we move on to nurture. So ask yourself, what do I need right now? Are those physical sensations shifting, or do they need some movement to allow them to move through me? You may need to, if you've got lots of tension in your arms, for instance, you may need to squeeze a cushion, or stamp your feet, pummel them into a mattress or something. See what your body wants to do and then try and find a safe way to meet that physical need while breathing and focusing on the physical sensations. Also ask yourself if there are any other physical sensations that need attending to. Do I need the toilet? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Do I need a hug? Can I give myself a hug? Try to meet your needs and show yourself kindness. And the last one of this is space. So it's easy to skip past this one, but I really encourage you to give it some thought. So space is really about questioning yourself. Am I ready to return to the situation, or do I need more space? The other question you might ask is, does my child still need space? Do they know that I'm there for them and that then, I'm not blaming them for having big feelings. Big feelings are welcome. But do they need some more space? If I go in now, are we just going to have another explosion? Is going in now sensible? And as long as they know that you love them and that you're there for them, then you can give them space. Sometimes you might find that you're all good and you're back at baseline. But if you're not, then you've got some choices. You can go back through the root and nurture bits again, or you can see if you can give yourself some physical space. If it's safe to do so, you could step outside. A change in environment can make a huge difference. Maybe you want to do a short guided meditation. Maybe you need some sensory buffers creating for you. So you could reach for your noise cancelling or reducing headphones. Put on a really cozy jumper that just makes you feel safer and more nurtured. Maybe even climb into your bed for 10 minutes. We often think these things aren't allowed, but I encourage you to think, who is making these rules? Where have these rules come from? Are they just rules that I've inherited, or are they rules that I really want for my home? The next strategy, step 2, is about getting really clear on your priorities. So don't try and tackle every problem at once. It's really tempting when you come to trainings like this to go, wow, okay, there's so many things. I want to try this, I want to try this, I want to try this. You're not going to be able to implement everything all at once. So what is the most important thing you want to change right now? Focus on that. What is the most important thing, or the thing that's going to make the biggest difference that I can change right now? If it's something with your kids, if you're having a really hard time with your kids and there's loads of explosive behaviour, what is the one thing that you can focus on now? Don't focus on it all, just focus on one. And then make an action plan to deal with that. And if you can co-produce that action plan with your children and get their buy-in, it is far more likely to be successful. And they might have some really good ideas. The same goes for you. If you're in stormy weather, it's not the time to beat yourself up about housework and keeping on top of your to-do list. This is the time to delegate, to protect your energy, and to lower your expectations of yourself. So deprioritize the list. Okay, number 3 is to schedule nervous system resets. So this is about bringing yourself back to emotional baseline. So allow for 10-minute pauses in your day to recalibrate. And there's lots of ways that you might want to do that. You need to find something that works for you. That might be something mindful. It might be some movement. It might be using music. It could be doing an activity that you find really nurturing. The important thing is that it feels calming. It brings you back to calm. So I always do a guided meditation in the car before I pick up the kids. And I also often reach for one if I'm getting activated and it's possible to tag out. So it's very common in my house to hear me say, right, guys, I feel myself getting stressed. I need 10 minutes so that I can be fun, calm and kind. Often I'll do that just after dinner before we go into bedtime. And then I'll say something like, I need 10 minutes so that I can be in the right place for you before we do special time. And then I go up to my bedroom and I close the door and I lie on my bed and I'll do a guided meditation. It might not be the same for you. You need to find something that works for you. These all need to be personalised to you. Right, the next one is special time. So the idea of special time comes from the work of Patty Whitfler. And the idea is that we spend a specified amount of time one-on-one with each child. The time is boundaried and the rules can change. So your child is in charge. They decide what you do, and your only job is to focus 100% on them and delight in them for that period of time. It works wonders for your connection, and it is my number one go-to tool to get kids back into a good emotional space. To make it work, it really needs to be regular and it needs to be consistent. So the best way to do that is to make it part of your routine. So for us, the only way we can manage it is doing it before bedtime. And whoever's putting the kids to bed spends 10 minutes with each child before we read them their stories. The best thing about this is it makes getting ready for bed really easy because they're motivated to get ready for bed because they want to have special time. The reason we only do 10 minutes, because the longer the better, but if the reason we only do 10 minutes is because any longer than that can feel really hard to fit in. And I know the way that my brain works, the way our household is at the moment, we're just going to skip it too often. The temptation to skip it if it's longer than 10 minutes is going to be too great. Any less than 10 minutes and your child won't relax into it and get any benefit of it. So it needs to be at least 10 minutes. And if you do it regularly enough, it can just be 10 minutes. We do often try and do some longer stints over the weekend as well. But again, this is about finding something and a pattern that works for your family. So my final tip is about feeling part of a community. Feeling like you're not the only one having a hard time. So you need some connection for yourself with people who get it and they get you and they get why you're saying it's so hard and it's so tough. You need to have a space to have a moan, a space to be heard. People need to hear you when it all feels too much. And you need people to celebrate with you when something goes right. And those people need to understand why it's such a win. There are many options for this. You could phone a friend or a family member who doesn't live with you. I say someone who doesn't live with you because likely if there's another adult in your house who lives with you, they're also feeling stress. And although there's massive value in you guys communicating, you do need somebody external as well, because if you're both feeling stressed, you're not going to be able to hear and hold each other in the way that you're going to need. You could also start up a listening partnership, which is another one of Patty Whitfler's brilliant ideas. And if you're interested in setting up a listening partnership and you don't have anyone to do it with, or you want to find out more about it, reach out and let me know. I might be able to find someone in our community. You can also reach out in a Facebook group. There are some really wonderful supportive groups out there supporting neurodiverse parents, neurodiverse children, parents of neurodiverse children. And I really encourage you to join some if you're feeling really alone and like you're struggling on your own. And if you enjoyed this training, you might enjoy our very own Facebook group, My Parent Village, where we try to create the village that we kind of need physically that we don't have. I've tried to recreate that online. And I post all my bite-sized trainings like this one, along with the accompanying PDFs in there. So speaking of PDFs, I don't know if it's going to show because sometimes it doesn't in presentations. I think it is. This is the PDF that accompanies this presentation. So all of the tips are in this PDF, and I really encourage you to print it out and stick it on your fridge for a few weeks, or somewhere where you are a lot and you're going to see it a lot, to remind you of all the things that we've talked about today. And once you've embedded those, you can take it off and you can forget about it because it will be just part of your daily life. But until you've got them down, I'd encourage you to have it up somewhere to remind you. And if you want to join My Parent Village, just DM me for the link or search for My Parent Village in Facebook groups and it should come up. The last thing I just wanted to tell you about is Growing Extraordinary Humans. So if you feel like you need more help with any of this, you might be interested in my program, Growing Extraordinary Humans. It's a 6-month program specifically designed for neurodiverse families, where I take families from being seen as extra to extraordinary. So if you want to find out more, just reach out on any of my social media channels and I'd love to speak to you. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, a great weekend. And if you've got any questions, do get in touch. I don't think I can see them on this software that I'm using. So if there are any questions in the comments, I will get back to them after the live, which I'm going to finish now. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.